This time next year, we should have 300 plus spaces of RV boat storage in Virginia, fully leased. And that is going to at least more than double our cash flow.
You're listening to the Real FI Podcast, where we discuss time-tested tricks, techniques, and strategies for pursuing financial independence today, so that we can enjoy a better tomorrow. Financial independence isn't about getting rich quick. It's about cultivating a foundation to grow financially, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Let's figure out how to kick the 9 to 5. Here are your hosts, Patrick and James.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to the Real FI Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Mcgrath, with my co-host, James Rippion. How's it going today, James?
Going well today, Patrick. I think we got a great guest on the docket today. I think it's going to be a surprise for everybody to kind of peel back the onion and see what we got underneath. And let's get into it. So today's guest, one and only Patrick Mcgrath, co-host of the Real FI Podcast. I think everyone's pretty excited to hear Patrick's background. Maybe in a future episode, we'll dig into my background and kind of some of the things I've got going on. But today we're going to focus on Patrick. So what are your thoughts, Patrick? Excited to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
I am. I'm super excited. I think it's going to be fun. I think you guys are going to learn some things. I got some new things that are going on that I can't wait to talk about. And I know James is going to ask me some great questions, and this is going to be fantastic. So you know the drill, James. Let's get started.
Let's do it, Patrick. Why don't you get us started by just telling a little bit about your background, kind of everything leading up to you being into real estate and where you are today, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. So as you guys know, Patrick Mcgrath, rental property couple on Instagram. So basically, I got started in real estate per se back in my early 20s. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that really kind of inspired me to kind of get into real estate and think about real estate. But at the time, didn't have any money, so I was broke. So I was working and had been working for the last 10 years as a sales rep. So I worked for some major Fortune 500 companies like Granger and Paychex, sold retirement plans, sold commercial and industrial products to, B2B business, B2C consumer. Then I got into selling industrial elevators. So they go on the outside of buildings. When you're building multifamily, commercial buildings up and down the East Coast, I did that for 5 years. And during that time, I was selling these products on construction sites, and they were building multifamily housing. And I'm like, if these guys are investing hundreds of millions of dollars into building, these multifamily housing, like I need to get into this. So during that time, I was saving a ton of money, listening to Bigger Pockets, reading all kinds of real estate books, and really like honing down on being prepared. And during that time, we kind of bought our first property, and over the last couple of years, which we're going to get into, have built up a rental property portfolio where I was able to quit my job last year in October. So married to Danielle, who's the other part of the rental property couple. My dad is a partner with us in our business that's helped us grow. So I'm sure we'll get into all that, but that's kind of like my story up until the real estate part. So
let's back it up a little bit and tell us a little bit more about getting into your first deal. Everybody, when they get into the first deal, they might have some apprehensions on what to expect and what kind of deal to do. How much did you save up for that first deal, and what did that look like?
Yeah, great question. So what we did is we bought our first house as a foreclosure, knowing that it wasn't going to be our forever home, and knowing that at some point we'd turn it into a rental. So our primary, we bought back in 2013. knowing like I can't afford to buy a rental property now, but this first house has the opportunity to be one. So what we did was we worked on that property, fixing up bathrooms and flooring and kitchens and all of this stuff. And we took out a home equity line of credit on that house. We were able to get $40,000, $45,000 line of credit. And that was the money that we had set aside to use for our first investment property. We figured we would be buying a property somewhere under 200,000. So, at 15% down with the closing costs and everything, that would put us right around 40 grand. So we were going to be all in on our first investment property. And we found a foreclosure 10 houses down from us on the same street back in 2017, that we were able to purchase for $175,000. And that was our first deal. And that's how we funded that first deal. My dad did help us out with that one. Basically before I went to before I put the offer in on the property, I asked him to come take a look at it. I was like, hey, I was kind of nervous. I just wanted that, approval that I wasn't, buying a complete shithole and that it was going to be way more headaches than I thought. And we went through the property and I was telling him everything that we planned on doing. And at the end of it, he was basically like, all right, so you can do this on your own. And I was like, yes, sir. Like I've got everything set up to be able to do this on my own. And he said that he wanted to go in 50-50 with us. Like, hey, if you have everything in place to do this, like you've taken all the necessary steps, I'm believing in you too. Let's go ahead and let's do this together. So that's kind of how we got into our first deal and led up to that first real estate deal.
Did your father have any kind of background in contracting or house investments like that to begin with? Or is he just kind of a second pair of eyes that you were relying on to give you a kind of objective opinion on all this?
So my dad did construction like back in the day. Like his uncle had a roofing company, and he always worked on his own cars. As we were growing up, like he was always remodeling the house and kind of like doing everything to save money, but he also knew how to do a lot of stuff. So he's pretty handy. But he's never invested in real estate. My dad is extremely conservative, or was extremely conservative up until that point. It was, work for your company, invest in your 401k, save 20 to 25% of all your income. Never really took any risk. So this was the first like big risk, but he was risking it on me and my dream and passion. And yeah, that's kind of how we got on that. But we did all of the renovations ourselves. So like Danielle, myself, my dad, anything that I didn't know how to do, he was teaching us, or we were learning on YouTube. And yeah, we all kind of worked on it. So no real estate background from anybody. This was all, the first shot at it, really.
And I think that's a huge key for people to pick up on is, and I've heard this from all types of investors, small single family, investors or syndicators themselves. You're always investing in the people, not necessarily the deal, because the deal is going to be what makes, good money, but the person behind the deal is going to have that very long-term vision to expand upon and to grow a great business from. And it's not going to be just that one deal that happens. So that's always been my perspective too. Sounds like your father kind of saw that in you as well, as invest in the person, and everything falls into place after that. So 2017, you guys got your foreclosure, you purchased that, everything's rolling. You got your first deal under your belt. What happens after that?
So we bought that property. We spent about $30,000 fixing it up. New roof, new electric panel, gutting the bathrooms, gutting the kitchens, like redoing everything. It appraised for 280,000. So we bought it for 175, appraised for 290, appraised for 290. And we did what every first time investor does, is we over improve the property and we made it way nicer than our house. So Danielle's like, hey, like we just spent all this money. This house is perfect. Like it's way better than our house. So we moved into the rental property, quote unquote, investment property, and we ended up renting out our primary residence. So that plan to have our primary be a rental worked out that way, but kind of in the wrong type of way. And we didn't do anything for like 2 years after that. So we bought that house, we moved into that one, and we liked it, but we kind of at that point moving everything, we were kind of ready to move. So we took out a home equity line of credit on that property, and we used that to buy our primary residence, which is here in Carroll County, Maryland. And one of the reasons we wanted to move out here is because they had more small multifamilies. The price per unit, the price per house was a little less, so we could get into more properties. And we also kind of really liked the area. So we moved out here, plan in place to invest in real estate. That's what we, during that time, we were looking at properties, and we were able to buy a triplex with that same HELOC. So it took 2 years from the time we bought our first investment property to the time we bought our next investment property. And that was a triplex. Then we bought a 4-unit a year later. A couple months later, we bought a single family. A year later, we bought a 10-unit building. And then earlier this year, we bought a 6-unit. So right now we're sitting at 23 rental properties. Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at now. That's the, long and short version of how it went from all of that in the last like 2.5 years.
It certainly all compounds on itself, and it doesn't happen overnight. And when you were going through the progression of each property being acquired, it's successively shorter periods of time, unless you're starting to buy larger properties and you're going to start scaling up. Then of course, you're going to have to refinance more money out, or use a larger HELOC, or have a larger down payment. But if you're dealing with small multifamilies, like, you're going to be able to acquire these quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker as that cash flow builds, and you have more equity to buy the next one. So that's incredible. 23 doors later, and here you are, man, killing it, on your path to way more, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit about the numbers with your portfolio. You got 23 doors. What kind of cash flow is that bringing in for you and Danielle?
Yeah, so I'd love to get into the numbers. I do kind of want to backtrack just a smidge here, though, and kind of tell you how, that first property led us to where we are today. And I'm going to break it down. It's going to sound extremely complicated, but at the end of it, I'll get into the numbers. So we had our primary residence, which we did a FHA 3.5% down. So we spent $10,000 on that. We took out a $40,000 HELOC, bought the first investment property. With that investment property, we took out a 90% home equity line of credit for $85,000. We bought our primary residence, and we bought the triplex. So during that time, the market went up. So we did cash out refinances on our first primary and the second investment property, refinanced out of those home equity lines of credit, and did a cash out refinance. We got 25 grand. With that 25 grand, we bought a single family in April 2020 during the pandemic. During that time, the triplex that we bought, we put $15,000 into that, renovating. We cash out refinance that, got our $65,000 down payment, our 15 grand back, and another 20,000. So we used that money to fund the 4-unit property that we bought. During that time, we had just finished the single family. We bird that one, so we cash out refinanced. We got our down payment. We've got our $16,500 is what we put into that one. I got that back, plus an additional 15 grand. So now we're working on the 4-unit property. We got an $85,000 seller carryback loan on that one. We put 30,000 into that. The seller financing was on a second note. So in the eyes of the bank, we had a loan for 150,000, and we had a secondary loan off the books for 85 with the seller. So what we did is that property we bought for 285. It appraised for 450. We got a new loan at 330, and we were able to get $150,000 back with the burr. So now we've got 150 grand in cash. After that, we sold the two single families and 1031 exchanged them into apartment building. And we used the 140 grand cash that we had from the fourplex to most of it. And then what we did is we sold that single family that we bought in April of 2020 that we had already cash out refinanced. We sold that December 2021, and we used the profits for that for the 6 unit. So all of this started with $10,000 FHA, loan. And now we have 23 rental units that are currently bringing in $28,000 in gross rents. We have 4 empty units right now at that 6 unit we just bought, and we're currently cash flowing a little more than $12,000 a month. So I know it's a little long-winded, but I kind of want to show you the creative recycling of everything that we were able to do to build up to those numbers. Yeah.
So I think that's important. It gives great context for our listeners to really understand, how those progressions happen, taking out money and recycling the equity into the next deal. So it's definitely important to know that. But let's talk about each of these deals and how you came across them, because I know you've had some pretty unique ways of finding these deals and getting them under contract and eventually buying them. So, tell us about how you found these deals and if there's anything special that you did to have those come under your radar.
Yes. So we'll start with the triplex. So with the triplex, it was listed on the MLS. It was listed for 250,000. And it was listed for over 9 months. During that time, I was looking on Craigslist and I found a post for a guy that was selling his entire portfolio. And that entire portfolio included this triplex. So it had his cell phone number and email address. So what I did was I called him and talked to him about the whole portfolio. And I was traveling at the time. So Danielle and my real estate agent went and looked at all of the properties. They were all kind of beat up and in bad shape. So we didn't end up offering anything on all of them, but every single month I just reached out to the guy through an email and I said, hey, I'm really interested in your triplex. I see it's still on the market. Would you like to get coffee? Every single month. I did that like 4 months in a row. Finally, the guy agreed to meet me at Starbucks and we sat down, and I basically told him that I want to be in his shoes one day. Like, how did you get to 13 units? Like, real estate investing. We sat there and talked for like an hour. And I told him, like, I only have 2 rental properties. This will be my first multifamily. But we can both agree that 250,000 just is way too much. It's not worth it. And I said, the most I can pay is 200. And he sat there for a minute and I was like, you don't need to give me an answer today. It's been on the market a while. It doesn't look like it's moving. Just think about it. So he came back and said he could do 210, and we agreed to it, did the inspection, and ended up getting 2% seller help. So we paid 204,000 for that one. During that time though, one of the other properties that he had in his portfolio was off market, which is the 4 unit. And I told him, I said, look, if you agree to sell me the 4 unit for 285, after I refinance this one, then I can pay, the over 200. That's basically what I said. Like, I'll give you the 210 if you agree to sell me the other one. So that's what he agreed to do. So I already kind of had that one locked in. And after that, I did the inspections and everything on the 4-unit, and kind of locked that one up at the same time. So after I did the cash out refinance is when I was able to buy the 4-unit. So I kind of got 2 deals in one from just meeting with her from an on market. Then we have the single family that we got during the pandemic. That one was listed as a foreclosure. It was listed for 109,000, and they had best and final. Danielle and I are in Mexico, and they did best and final. They said they have an offer. It's like over $120,000 for it. I was like, man, this is crazy, but you know what? Let's just get it under contract. The pandemic is happening. Like, things are going crazy right now. So we offered $135,000 for this property that was on the market for 110. We got it under contract. We had 10 days to do the inspection. Right when we got back from Mexico, they shut the entire country down. Like, the 2 weeks to stop the spread and all that. Real estate agents aren't showing properties. No one's letting anybody in properties. No one wants to do showings. It's crazy. So we do the home inspection, and there was a fire in there. It still had knob and electric. Like, it was bad. So what we did was I got my contractor to write up like a $70,000 repair bill for that one. And we sent it to the bank and said, hey, all this stuff is bad with it. We need to be back at the 109. And because they were so worried about when everything was going to open back up, they agreed. And that saved us $25,000. So that's how we got that one. Then the 10-unit apartment building, there's a commercial space there that's a salon, and Danielle was going to that salon to get her hair done, and the owner was doing her hair and saying that they were moving, and she was like, well, why are you guys moving? This is a great place. She said, well, the owner is considering selling the building, and I don't know what that means for us and the business, so we found another place. So she got the owner's information, and I called her, and we were able to kind of work out a deal based on that. So Danielle found the 10-unit apartment building. And then the latest one, the 6-unit apartment building, I started sending out mailers using the Deal Machine app. And this guy reached out to me and was like, I'm not really interested in selling, but I would sell this one property for 450,000. We chatted back and forth. It took almost 9 months, and we were able to get a deal under contract for that one, and we closed on that one for 430,000. So, a lot of the deals, couple of the deals came on market, couple of the deals came off market, but all through different channels, Craigslist, postcards, word of mouth, like, it's everything. Just, that's kind of how we've been able to acquire the portfolio and get to where we are today.
So looking at your portfolio for what you have currently, is there a deal that kind of just stands out to you as being like just this home run, magnificent deal that you guys knocked out of the park? Is there one that kind of stands out to you?
Oh yeah. I'm going to say the 10-unit apartment building. That's definitely the one that changed our lives, for sure. That's, we didn't know what the hell we were doing, to be completely honest with you. Like, at that time we had a 3-unit, a single family, 3-unit, 2 single families, and a 4-unit. So I think we had like 9 units at the time, and we were going to buy 10. It was going to double our portfolio. We didn't have, you need 25%. This is an $850,000 property. I need to come up with $230,000. We're doubling the portfolio. It's an hour from where I live. Yeah, it was crazy. But we figured out a way to do it. I was like, well, we can sell these 2 properties. We're only making $200 each on them a month. Like, we'll sell these, and we were finishing up the burr, and we were going to get a bunch of cash back. So we're like, well, let's just go for it. So we bought that property. It had rents that were about I think it was $6,800, $6,800 to $7,000 a month is what this 10-unit apartment was bringing in when we purchased it.
That's including the commercial space.
That's including the commercial space. The commercial space was rented for $900 a month, 2,000 square foot commercial space, $900 a month. The average apartment was renting for between $700 and $800 a month. These are like 2 bedrooms. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 1-bedrooms, 5 2-bedrooms, and 2,000 square feet of commercial space. Now, mind you, this is in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, which is 20 minutes away from Baltimore, right on the water. Like, I knew it was a great deal at the time, but I didn't know how great it was until now. So a year later, the average rent that we are getting in for, like, I just rented one of the 2-bedroom apartments for $1,650. The tenant in there before was paying $800. So right now, our current rents at the property are $13,925. So we took it from $6,800 to $13,925. This is at a 7 to 7.5 cap. So we're getting ready to take out a line of credit on this building. And my conservative number is that it's going to appraise for 1.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it appraised for 1.6, 1.65. So double what we paid for it.
So
in less than a year.
Was it the same cap rate that you're doing the appraisal now that you bought it at, or is there any kind of difference between those 2 time periods?
So the appraisal that they gave us was a 7 cap when we purchased it. It could have been because the income was so low, but it was a 7 cap. And then the most recent building that we bought, the 6-unit, that came in at a 7 cap. So that's where I'm going off of the numbers as a 7 cap.
Gotcha. Very cool. That's awesome, man. I mean, you really added some value there, increased the rents like crazy. And, you know, as anybody knows, doing commercial real estate, you know, increase that income, decrease those expenses, and you're really going to see a huge jump in your valuation, especially when you buy these distressed properties. Is that salon still in there? Did you keep the salon in there as a tenant, or did you switch that up with a new commercial tenant?
So the salon moved out, and right before we closed on the property, the woman had a new tenant in there that was paying $1,400. And she signed like a 3-year lease, and I was pissed. But what can you do? So we just dealt with it. And then around Christmas time, the woman that was in the space was having some issues, didn't need all the space, was closing down her business. She told me that I could go find a new person. So one of our close friends came to me and said, hey, if it ever comes available, let me know. Boom, I get the lease signed with her for $2,500. So $1,400 to $2,500. And interestingly enough, the woman came back and said, hey, I don't actually want to leave. And I'm like, look, I already have a new lease signed. You already signed documents that said you were leaving. I'm sorry. Maybe you can work out something with the girl who has this space now, because there's like two separate spaces. So now the girl that was originally renting it, she's renting a space from the girl who has it now. So it worked out great for everybody. The woman that I bought it from was paying for all the water for the salon. I put in a digital water meter that counts all the gallons of water and charge it back to them. There's just all these little things that you can do to lower the expenses on these properties, while also, you know, charging market rents. But we didn't go. I didn't just take the rents from $800 to $1,600 with the tenants that were living there. You know, that's not how I would run my business. That's not the type of guy that I am. So these are, you know, we had tenants move out, we renovated the units, and then we went for market rents. So we increased everybody that's decided to stay. They've had like a $200 increase. I mean, there's still this property is almost $14,000 a month, and there's still 4 tenants that are, $400 to $600 below market rents. So I believe it's going to be worth $2 million when we're 100% turned over.
Right. So I really respect that you gave the existing tenants the option to stay with a fair rental increase. But even if they were going to leave, that's when you really did your major renovation and got the most bang for your buck with increasing those rents. And, I think that's important because, having a good rapport with your tenants goes a long way for managing not only, relationships and timely rent payments, but the condition of the property too. So, why don't you talk a little bit about that, like how you maintain really positive relationships with your tenants and kind of your thoughts behind all of that?
Yeah. What we did is when we purchased the property, we put a letter on everyone's door that says, hey, we're your new owners. Here's how your rent is going to be received every month. Here's what I know that your lease says that you're currently paying. If you have any issues, any maintenance items that haven't been taken care of, please make us aware of them immediately. And when can we set up a time to come meet in person? That's the day that we bought it. Put a letter on every single person's door, reach out. Here's my phone number. Call me. I want to come meet you in person. So then what I did is I met with every single tenant in person, and I had the rent ready sheets for what a 1-bedroom apartment, what a 2-bedroom apartment in the area at market rents is. First, I sat down, introduced myself, asked if there's anything that needs to be taken care of right away. Then I told them, look, you're on a month-to-month lease. You're at $800 a month. Market rent is $1,300 a month. We can both agree that this isn't a top tier apartment right now. So I'm not expecting you to come up to $1,300 a month, but I also can't have you stay at $800 a month. So what I would like to do is you over the next week, think about it and find out where you can comfortably come up to and see if that works for both of us. So also, is there any things that you would like to have? Do you want a ceiling fan? Do you want a new bathroom light? Would you like the apartment painted? Just little things like, is there anything that needs to get taken care of? Let me take care of that first. And then these rent increases won't come into effect for 60 days if we decide to stay, if you decide to stay. So I'm giving them 60 days to move out if they need to. And then I'm also giving them a chance to have them come back to me with a number that's comfortable. So I don't want you to give me a number that you think is going to make me happy, and then you're not going to be able to afford to live here and you're going to be gone anyways. So let me know what that is. And that's kind of how I did it. I provided everybody with the documentation, and everyone that decided to stay came back with a $200 increase, which I was happy. We had, majority of the tenants came up 200, and 2 tenants decided to leave. So now I have 2 empty units to start renovating. I've got, I brought the income already up $1,900, almost $2,000 on the property within, the first week. So I was happy. And that's how we were able to do that. And I think that's the way that most people should. And it's like, hey, if you're going to leave, that's fine. You've got 60 days, 90 days. I'm not going to increase your rents. Let's just go our separate ways. And that's okay. But you also want to have respect for the tenants, and give them enough time to be able to make the decision and make the decision on their own. And I did have some people come back with a lower number than I was willing to accept. And I said, unfortunately, that's not where I can be comfortable at. If we could do X, I can do that. And we were able to make that work as well. So that's kind of how we've been able to do it. And that's how we've done it on all of our properties since then.
Gotcha. I love that. So, we're currently at the time of recording, it's August, was it August 1st, Patrick? Trying to look at the calendar here. August 1st. And we're halfway through this year. And you've been able to accomplish a lot so far. You've been doing some really incredible things. You have 23 doors. You've got lots of cash flow coming in. What'd you say? $28,000 gross and $12,000 $12,000 per month cash flow. Let's talk about the remainder of the year and some of these cool things that you're going to be looking to accomplish between now and then, and maybe talk about some of the projects that you have going on right now that might be new and in development.
Exactly. So currently right now, we are going to be working on renovating 4 out of the 6 units at the 6-unit building that we purchased back in March. So that's kind of what I have going on. Everybody follow me on Instagram is going to start seeing those before and afters and projects and all of that. So we have that going on. We are actively looking for more properties to purchase. Like I said, we just finished a home equity line of credit on our primary residence. We are taking a line of credit out on the apartment building. We got the last unit rented. The lease got signed today. So we are going to be sending that information over to the bank, getting the 10-unit appraised, getting a line of credit on that. So right now we are stacking liquidity, stacking capital to be able to really take advantage of the current market situation. I'm having meetings and phone calls with different people every week about properties that are becoming available off market. A lot more properties are becoming available off market. They're still in what the investors think is peak buying time. So the prices are a little inflated, but I think they're going to start coming down a little as well. So we're actively looking to expand the portfolio, but we do have something extremely exciting, which is if you go back and listen to episode 2 of the Real FI podcast with Nate Dobbins, Nate talked about RV campgrounds, RV boat storage, and offline after that podcast, I kind of told him that I'd be interested in learning more about that. And if you found a deal, please, bring it along to James and myself, and let's talk about it. And Nate found 15 acres in Virginia that we now have under contract, that we are going to develop 5 acres of RV and boat storage. So you heard it here first. I've kind of teased this along for a little bit, but we are currently under contract. Engineering is going on right now. We have to go through the county and get everything approved for the land use, which we're like 99% positive that that's going to happen. And this time next year, we should have 300 plus spaces of RV boat storage in Virginia, fully leased. And that is going to at least more than double our cash flow. It's extremely significant. It's really exciting. Again, there's a common theme here, I think, with, my story, and it's that we're doing things that are outside of the comfort zone. I didn't think that I was going to be doing a development, let alone RV boat storage development. I don't know shit about that, but I do know that, if the numbers make sense, it's renting, property, it's renting, which I love. So we're rolling the dice and going after the opportunity. And it's because we have built a foundation that we're able to kind of do some of these new things and take these risks. So we've got that. I'm also going to be starting a wholesaling business. So that's pretty exciting. After having go back and listen to Felipe's episode, go back and listen to Jennifer's episode. We've had a bunch of wholesalers on here, and it's so inspiring. And I just been thinking about it more and more, and I'm like, man, I can do this. I can do this. So we're putting the things in place right now to start that as well. And then James and I, with this podcast, we've been consistent. We're continuing to be consistent. We've got a bunch of cool ideas. I think within the next week or two, we are going to have a rental property calculator that you guys will be able to download. So you can click the link in our link tree or on our website at therealfi.com. Sign up. You'll get a free download of the rental property calculator, which you'll be able to use to analyze deals. And we're going to have a bunch of other really cool stuff coming up in the pipeline, maybe a book, you know, some blog posts, a bunch of different things, possibly a course or two. So we've got a lot going on. It's not just necessarily me. It's also James. It's also my partners. So those are just some of the cool things that I've got going on right now. And it's extremely busy, but very exciting.
Something that you've impressed upon me, Patrick, is your ability to work on your business, not in your business. And we were talking about this a little bit before we hopped on this video call. And, I think it all starts from finding the right people to do business with, like with you and Nate in that RV park. You guys have formed a good partnership. I don't know if you guys have other outside partners as well coming into that deal. But you've got that partnership and things are rolling there in positive direction. This whole podcast organization is sort of like a partnership with all of our guests too, because we're picking up all of these ideas from them, learning new things to implement in our own businesses. And as far as the things that you're doing outside of just the real estate holdings and the RV development, you find ways to systematize, outsource a lot of those things that need to be done. So I think that's a consistent theme too. And that's a difficult thing for me to do. Like that's one of my flaws, is working in the business and not wanting to give up control, and then things kind of fall by the wayside. So Patrick's been really incredible, especially with this podcast, is directing growth and finding ways to be efficient. So commendable for that. Let's talk a little bit more about this RV park, if you don't mind, because
let's dive in.
So I think you and I can share unique perspectives on this, because Nate brought this deal to us, both of us, to kind of evaluate and think about maybe going in on. I turned it down, and it wasn't because the deal was not good. It just wasn't the right time in my life, it felt like, to invest, because I didn't have the capital, available to invest at that time, because we were waiting on a refinance, still jumping through a lot of hoops to do that. So it wasn't the right time for us to go in. But like looking at Patrick's side of things on the opposite end, he might have been almost in the same position as me, like maybe not knowing where the funds are going to come from necessarily, or how it was going to work and play out. But he took the action and the risk. This might be kind of a difference between Patrick and I. Patrick is like ready to jump on it and just get on the deal. What really sold you about the RV park that made you think like, this is a deal that I've got to pursue and do with Nate no matter what?
To be completely honest with you, it was the numbers. The numbers were just insane. That was the number one thing. Like the numbers looked great. The number two thing was this challenge. Like I've been fascinated with storage. Danielle and I have talked about wanting to buy storage facilities, not having to deal with quote unquote tenants and air conditioning issues and heating issues and all kinds of other things. And this storage opportunity came up, and I was like, well, this is outdoor storage. So we don't even have like doors or any of this other stuff, like people that can't find their keys or anything. It's like the ultimate like passive, basically investing really after the development part. And I'm always looking for exciting, challenging things to go after and learn about. And this is that next step. And this put me in the next step of getting outside of my comfort zone. Like you just said, delegating, taking that next step in finding funding. At this particular moment, we still don't know how we're going to fund our portion of this deal. We have the capital available. We are considering looking for one or two accredited investors to fund the entire thing, and maybe break them off a piece of equity. So we still don't know exactly how we're getting the deal done. We know that we can get the deal done, but we still haven't decided like what the best route is. And it's because we have time. And I think that's really the biggest thing for this whole adventure is just taking the opportunity, seizing it, and saying, we'll figure it out. And I've got the people in place to be able to figure it out. And we have a decent timeline on this. So we're having those conversations as we're going to the next steps. Like we've had the big picture conversations on, hey, this is the amount of money we need. This is how all of this is going to work. And then as the next steps come, it's like, okay, now we need to decide on this. Okay, now we need to decide on this. But I'm not going to really focus a ton of energy on deciding these things that need to take place 6 months or 9 months down the road. Right now, I've got other more important stuff that I need to focus my time and attention to. But I know it's out there over there, but it's really the numbers, man. Like this thing.
I mean, that's what we're here for, man. Good numbers, good results, cash flow. Who can complain about that? So tell us a little bit about the deal, though, with how you're staggering the development of it. Are you guys going to be building 100% of the spaces up front, or are you going to, do a portion of this and kind of wait to see how it grows?
So what we're going to do is we're going to develop 5 acres of this almost 16-acre lot. I believe 8 acres can be developed. So we'll have some room for expanding. We are going to do 8-foot privacy fence all around. We're going to grade. We're going to level out parking. We're going to do gravel. We have to do security cameras, electric, automatic gates, automatic payment systems, all of that. The initial plan is to get it 100% leased, and then we're going to refinance our construction, development, and land purchase loan, get our money back. We have a couple options after that. We can hold it and just collect an insane amount of cash flow, which I'd like to do for a little bit. We have the option to develop the additional 3 acres, which we could do with, I believe, storage units, which is an option to rent storage units out to the people that are renting or having their RVs and boats stored there. That is one option. The other option is to expand and increase the space up to, I believe, almost 450 spaces. We have to see how the market absorbs this. And then the other option is that we can sell it 100% leased with the option already built in for expanding the space, which I think that one is the most intriguing and exciting out of all of them. For people out there that don't know about storage, that has been trading between 3 and 5 cap on the net operating income. Times are changing a little bit, but even with the numbers that they're coming out, even at, a 5 or 6 cap, this property has the potential to be worth $4 or $5 million. So it's life-changing for the people that are investing in it, if it all goes well. But the thing with this is that even if it does 50% of what we are expecting it to do, like, it's still going to be a great investment. It could all fall flat on its face, and I could be sitting here a year from now telling you it was the dumbest decision that I've made. But you know what? I've made a bunch of them. So I'm just going to keep trying and learning. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting over this next year to kind of share it with everyone and really see. And we're still going to be buying real estate. But if this all works out, our path might change. We might go into trying to do some more of these developments. And that's the thing, I think, as an investor, reaching for financial freedom, financial independence, you have to be able to shift and, be a chameleon in this whole game. It's not shiny object syndrome. You have to know what you're dealing with. But you have to be able to, identify opportunities, assess the risk, and then take action on them, and be willing to go after it. I'm looking to ring the bell, man. I want to be I'm financially independent. I wouldn't say financially free yet. Like, are we making good income? Yes. Do we have a nice net worth? Yes. Have I reached my goals per se? No. And I'm gonna take any avenue I need to get there and hit those goals. And this just happens to be one of the ways that I think we're gonna get there. So
Well, let's explore that a little bit. I mean, that's why you and I started this podcast together, and this is why we're interested in real estate, is our financial independence goals. Talk to us a little bit about what you want to do in the mid to long term as far as your goals go. Like, where do you want to be? In understanding that things can change and pivot based on what you're going through, like with this RV development. Of course, everything can change. But like as it stands now, what are your goals door wise, income and cash flow wise? Any other metric you might use to determine what your goals are?
so our goals are 70 units personally owned. That will hit our cash flow number based on $350 to $400 cash flow per door. That's what our average is. At that should put us right around $30,000 a month in cash flow. For everybody out there, when I talk about cash flow, I'm talking about gross rents minus all expenses. All expenses. It's our cash flow. Just because there's a bunch of people out there that don't believe that, that's what we're talking about here. So $30,000 a month. Myself and Danielle own 70% of our company. My dad owns 30% of the company. That puts us all roughly at around $10,000 a month. Danielle and I 20, my dad 10. That's our like first immediate goal, is to hit those numbers. That should put us around a $3.5 million net worth. And that's the first goal to get to. With that, then the next goal is,
What does the timeline look like for that? Do you have that kind of conceptualized as next couple of years, or what? What's that look like?
man, I definitely threw out some huge goals for 2022 in January and said I was going to have 70 units by the end of this year. We still have some time. It's not looking like that's going to happen. But I would say, end of next year, I think end next year we'll have hit our $30,000 a month cash flow goal. I don't know if that's going to be from 70 personally owned units, but I'm gonna commit to that and continue to say like 70 units personally owned is what I'm committed to. Whether it's this year, whether it's next year, it's going to be very soon. In the next 18 months, I would say we should be able to do that. And then during that time, doing other things to increase that cash flow. I've got ideas for, a book. I've got ideas for a course, a bunch of different things that I'm going to be putting out there to try to get these different revenue streams to help people, mastermind groups, selling the merchandise. All of that stuff is going to build and add to our financial freedom goals. So I haven't thought any past that number really. Like, I would be lying if I said that, I wanted a $10 million net worth or $100,000 a month. I haven't thought that far into the future on what the, ultimate goal really is, but 70 doors, 30K a month. I think at that, I'm truly financially free, where Danielle can quit her job as well. We can just focus on the business. And then we can, we have the foundation, we have the path in place to be able to start thinking about other things, whether that's syndication and going after really big deals, whether that's going more into commercial, whether that's taking this RV boat storage facility and trying to buy more of them all over the country and franchise it. There's all different kinds of things that I can do, but right now the main goal is to just hit the target first. And I'm sure as I'm getting closer and closer to that target, I'll start thinking about the next one. But right now, I'm only a little more than a third of the way there. So I've got some more work to do before I can go thinking about the big lofty goals.
I'm with you, man. I think it's important to live your life and your goals in increments of time where you can accomplish those things, and then also far enough out to where you can change them and pivot if necessary. Making a goal for 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, I'd be hard pressed to identify anybody who keeps that goal consistent for that amount of time, not because they give up, but because it changes and life changes. So I'm really with you in the 6 to 24 month camp of setting your goals and working to get those. And you might not get there as quick as you had originally thought you would, but that's okay. We can fall forward. We can fall forward trying to get to those goals. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as we're making progress each month, each week, each day towards those ends. So I completely agree with you there. Tell us a little bit about the obstacles you might be facing. We kind of got into this a little bit, but big picture wise with RV development, and maybe even the podcast or your personal portfolio, we're trying to hit that 70 unit and cash flow target. What are some of the obstacles that you're thinking through on the path to get there?
So a couple of the obstacles that I've been facing had just been rehab times. For one, that's been my biggest obstacle. Is I've been working in my business for a long time, doing a good majority of the renovations. We still hire out things, but I've been doing a lot of the work. So that's been one obstacle. I think that we found somebody to handle that part for me 100%. We're going to be giving them a shot here in a couple weeks and see. So if that happens, that's going to be a game changer. Another obstacle has really just been, it kind of ties into the renovation process, but getting the liquid funds together. So, doing the home equity line of credit, like that took like 3 months. It was ridiculous with the banks. We're getting ready to do another one on the apartment building. So it's having the funds in place to be able to go after some of these bigger deals that I want. I want a 20 unit apartment building. I want a, 30 unit apartment building. To buy a $2 million property, you got to have your shit together. So it takes time to get all that stuff together. So that's another obstacle that we have all the things we've been putting all the things in place, and they're slowly coming together. People always say, deal flow. That's another big thing that I've am trying to overcome right now is deal flow. And I'm not getting the deal flow from the relationships that I've built and been building. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go create my own business and make my own deal flow. That's why I'm starting the wholesaling business. It's not because I really want to assign contracts and worry about making 10 or 20 grand a deal. What I really want to do is go find some freaking awesome deals to add to my portfolio. And I'm going to snipe those out, and maybe I'll assign some other ones to some people. I've got a good network that I'm sure people would buy them from, and it'll bring in some income. But my goal isn't to start this huge wholesale business and create another job for myself. My goal is to bring in the deal flow, because I've exhausted all the other ways to have this deal flow. So I'm going to have to go do it for myself. So that's another obstacle that I've had to think about overcoming. Other than that, the only other obstacle that I've really had has been dedicating enough time to editing all the videos for the podcast and everything else. I mean, we have such great content. If you haven't listened to all whatever we have now, 27, 28 episodes, like every single one of them is packed full of content that I would love to get out there on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. But up until this point, like all the editing has been me editing stuff. I mean, James has been great at getting guests. He's great at handling all of uploading everything. And James writes all the bios for everything. This is a partnership that we've both been working at. It's just that the part takes a lot of time. So I'm going to be hiring that out. Go listen to Grant Warrington's episode. he talked about virtual staff. I've already submitted the job postings. I have like 300 applicants to go through, where I'm going to be hiring someone to start editing our videos for us so we can put more content out there. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished in these last 7 months, but I also feel like we have such great content that we're putting out there that can benefit so many more people that just their eyeballs and their ears are just not seeing it because we just haven't done everything that we possibly could to get that there. So that's another obstacle, and we're gonna overcome all these obstacles because James and I are committed to continuing to bring awesome guests, asking great questions, and putting, good content out there. I mean, that's the whole point we started this thing, man. I can tell me as a person in the last 7 months has grown so much from doing this, and it's become a huge passion of mine. And I mean, I can't speak for James, but I'm assuming it's the same way. I mean, James, what do you think about that?
I think a lot of the guests we've had, you look at them on the social media profile, and you have this understanding of what they're doing and the things that they're about. But then you talk to them one-on-one, you really dig in. And for a lot of them, I've had this wow moment, to say the least, of like, holy crap, these people are so creative in the ways that they're tackling their deals and building their financial position in their lives. And most impactful to me, which is kind of why I selfishly wanted to do these podcasts and these episodes, get this going, is to further cement my why and my personal desire for what I wanted to do. And when we, have our wrap up questions with a lot of these guests, it's really apparent that there's a lot of shared values in this community, and it's time, quality of life, and it's not material things. It's not all those showboaty kind of things. It's enjoying time with family, enjoying time with loved ones, doing what you want on your terms. And I think everyone can relate to that. I mean, who wouldn't want that? There's some people who like to wear success on their sleeve, so to speak. But most of the people if not all of the people we've talked to, seem to be doing it for the right reasons. And that's what really excites me and motivates me. And it helps to put in perspective like what I want to do. Because like we've been talking about almost every episode is goals. Goals change and shift all the time. They shift from inputs that you receive from others who are doing great things. So that has been what's been super impactful to me personally. But all right, Patrick, what do you think, man? You got anything else you want to talk about? Let the listeners cue in on anything that you thought might be interesting to jump in on, or you want to do it? Right.
I think this is a perfect time to get into the big
four. So how are we doing this one? We normally split it up, but what do you think? You think I should just rattle through all four? Or are you going to ask yourself a question? I'll ask them.
Oh man, I think you should ask them.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do the first one. What's something that you do that feels like a personal finance hack? Something that other people don't appreciate or know or take advantage of? Something you do maybe in your day-to-day life?
So I'm going to go with this one. This is one that I thought really changed my life. And that was I set up a separate bank account at a bank that I do not have online banking for. That when I was working a W-2 job, I had direct deposit go into that bank account, and I started it at 5%, and it would put 5% in this account every paycheck. And I figured out if I could afford that 5% to go in there. And then 2-3 months later, I upped it to 10%. And then 2-3 months later, upped it to 15%. And I got all the way up to 25%. I was saving 25% of my income at this bank that was an hour from my house, that I did not have a debit card to, that I did not have online banking to. So the only way that I could get money from this bank account was I physically had to drive there and pull the money out. And the only way I could find out how much was in there was I physically had to drive there to go find out how much was in there. And you would be amazed at how much money you can save in 3 to 6 months when you're putting 25% of your pay away. And my lifestyle didn't change. I was still able to do all the things that I was doing. And I I can be completely honest with you. I would have blown that money had I not done that. I would have went to going out to eat or going on vacations, or I would have found some way to do it. But when I checked my checking account that I have my debit card to, I was like, oh, this is only how much money I have in here. So that was a way for me to put a budget in place, but it catered to my personality and my lifestyle. And that was how I was able to fund a lot of my other investments. That was, and I think everyone out there, personally, I think everyone out there can save at least 10% of their income. Anyone who says they can't is lying to themselves. And I believe that people should be able to do a little bit more than that. And especially if you have like a commission-based job, you definitely can. But I think that's a life hack that really helped me be able to save money and invest money and give me some comfort.
A lot of this is psychological, and you got to find what works for you and your habits and your personality. Whether it's squirreling away money so that you can't have access to it, like that solves a major hurdle that perhaps you had to getting to that first step of saving up a nice lump sum to get invested into real estate. And everybody's going to find those things in their life when they look hard enough. Those hacks that they can create around their psychology or habits, and those things can be adjusted. And I agree 100%. Like, commit your mind to it, and you can do it. It's not too difficult. You just take some action. So on to our second question: resources. Are there any books, podcasts, other than this great, fantastic podcast we're on today, that you might recommend to our listeners and viewers as something that shaped your personal financial independence journey? And I know you hinted at a little purple book early off. I think that's something that you relied on to get started, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But that one, we beat that dead horse. Give us another thing.
I would say that my number one book recommendation that changed me was Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. That book gave me the confidence to feel like I knew what I was doing. And it gave me the ability to accept that being obsessed with something is okay. Like, it is, as long as it's for the right reasons, which is, real estate and working on your business and becoming financially free. And that book really opened my eyes, to say like, hey, go all in. It's okay to be obsessed. So that's my number one book recommendation for sure. Resources out there, podcasts that I'm listening to. My number one podcast that I listen to is the Joe Rogan Experience. I love that podcast. I think he has a ton of great guests. It's mind expanding. You don't always have to focus on investing in real estate and personal growth all the time. So Joe Rogan Experience. Another one is Rod Khleif and Michael Blanc. Those two podcasts are great. I want to get into buying larger multifamilies. All those guys focus on is larger multifamilies. So I need to start thinking like a large multifamily investor, a large multifamily owner. So I'm starting and have been listening to these podcasts to get myself in that space. So those are the podcasts that I'm listening to. That's my number one book recommendation. And yeah.
Sweet. I love it. I do like Michael Blanc. He's got great resources. His courses are amazing too. So if you wanted to reach out and look into that. Patrick, it's your future you. It's 5 years into the future. Where's Patrick Mcgrath at? Describe your life, maybe your business. Give us a little bit of a summary there.
So 5 years into the future, myself and Danielle are both just working for our company. I think we probably have multiple companies at this point, all synergistic together, revolving around real estate and investing, coaching. I think we're probably going to be living somewhere down south. So whether that's South Carolina, Florida timeframe, that's where we'll be. and just really looking forward to spending more time together. I don't have a number in mind on where I want to be financially or anything like that. I just know that I want to be living on the beach, having a beach house, spending time with my dogs, spending time with my wife. At that point, I know 100% I will have hired a property management company because, as you guys know, I manage my own rental portfolio. I think I want to get to a point where, and I will be at a point then when I have been able to delegate a lot of the tasks that take away from me expanding my business and doing what I'm passionate about. And that's really where I'm going to be in 5 years. It's working on my businesses, delegating, and helping others, become financially free like we are with this podcast. And we're going to have over 5,000 downloads per episode in the next 5 years.
Oh, way more than that. Hopefully 10,000. I love it. Patrick, why don't you tell our guests and listeners how they can get in touch with you outside the podcast?
So you can hit me up on Instagram at the Rental Property Couple. So Rental Property Couple on IG, Rental Property Couple on TikTok. You can also DM us on the Real FI Podcast Instagram page if you're not already on there. Make sure that you go to therealfi.com. Check out the new website. Tell us what you think of that as well. But hit me up there. I respond to all of the DMs as long as you're not asking me to invest in your crypto schemes. I'll reply back to you.
You get a lot of those?
I do. Yes.
Oh, that's annoying. Terrible. Great. Well, Patrick, I really appreciate you taking your time to share your story with our listeners. After 20 some episodes, I think we're up to 26, 7,
8, maybe 28.
I know a lot of people have been wanting to know more about you and things that you're doing. So it's been great to kind of peel back that layer and let people know like awesome things that you've got going on. And also the really cool things that we're looking forward to bringing to our guests and our listeners as time goes on and we're able to add more features and information and content to the podcast. So with that, if you guys are listening to this podcast, please leave us a review on your chosen player. Leave a 5-star review if you really liked it. And let us know if you have any questions. If you want to reach out to us, you can hit us up by email, info@therealfipodcast.com. And we look forward to hearing back from you. You got anything else, Patrick?
You can also leave us a review on the website at therealfi.com if you don't feel like doing it on Apple and you can't do it on Spotify.
Yep.
And just be prepared for all the great content that James and I are putting out there. And please, if you are enjoying this podcast, reach out, let us know. It really means a lot to us. And if you or anyone that would be a great guest for the podcast, definitely hit us up. We love talking to different guests, and we would really appreciate it. If you know someone, there's so many people out there. If you know someone that's great that you think would be great for the podcast, send us a DM, tag them on Instagram, and we'll make sure to get them on the podcast. But other than that, thank you all.
All right. Catch you guys later.
Thank you for listening to the Real FI Podcast, where you learn from the investors that have lived the hard lessons for you. To connect with us during your pursuit of financial independence, be sure to join our community by following us on Instagram or emailing us at info@therealfi.com. If this content made you financially, mentally, physically, or spiritually richer, please make sure to leave us a positive review on your preferred content platform. Cheers to kicking the 9 to 5.